I'm Hillary Mulick and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am a destination wedding photographer based in North Carolina, and here on my channel I share education for photographers as well as a peek into my life here in the Carolinas. Before we get started on today's topic, I have a free download for you in the description, how to get 10 storytelling photos with one pose. It's my secret to keeping my clients comfortable and relaxed throughout a session while also getting a variety of images. So make sure you go to the description and grab that download. All right, today's topic is all about photographing flat lays. So I have 5 tips for you on how you can elevate your wedding day flat lays. If you don't know what a flat lay is, it's when you style details on a flat surface in a beautiful way, and that is a flat lay. So today I have compiled 5 tips on how to make your flat lays that much better. Let's get started. Tip number 1 is photographing your flat lays on a clean background. I love styling mats. I particularly love this brand. It's the Locust Collective. And I love them because they're really easy to travel with. I shoot quite a few destination weddings a year, and these are really easy to throw in my luggage. They have 2 colors to them. So this particular one that I got has gray on one side, blue on the other, and they lay flat. They're just a clean surface to photograph details on. I like to, when I show up at a wedding and I get ready to photograph the details in a flat lay form, I like to go next to a window, find a clean area, and just lay my mat down right beside it and start styling on it. So tip number 1, clean backgrounds when photographing flat lays. Tip number 2 is elevate your paper goods. What you don't want to do is lay an invitation suite flat, because then there's no dimension there. And what you want to do is you want to elevate the paper goods so that it creates dimension in the image and it makes your image a lot more interesting. And my favorite way to do that is with washi tape. So I have washi tape in a variety of different heights. So generally I'll put the main invitation on the highest, and then I might style the details on some other washi tape sizes. Just create a little bit of dimension throughout the flat lay. And so I love doing these with paper goods, and washi tape is super cheap. I think I got each of these at a craft store for maybe 25 or 50 cents each. Super cheap and easy way to literally elevate your invitation suite so that your flat lays are elevated and look more awesome. The third tip to photographing flat lays is have a variety of props on hand. I actually have this container. I ordered it on Amazon, and it just has little compartments for just different props that I've collected over the years. I'll show you some of my favorite props. These are just small antique trays that are really fun for sitting jewelry in, boutonnieres. Just a great way to create variety in your flat lay styling. The next prop I really like to have are ring boxes. I have a variety of colors, so I have blues, black, I have some pinks in my little container back there, and it's just a great way to just style wedding rings and engagement rings. And if you have a few different colors, you can customize it to whatever their wedding colors are for that specific couple. The next prop I like to use when styling flat lays is loose blooms and sprigs. So how I do this is when I have my final consult with the couple, I tell them to tell their florist, or I might just email the florist directly, to provide an extra vase for me for styling of loose blooms and sprigs that were used throughout the wedding, but these are just extras for me to use for styling. And it's a great way to just tie in the florals and the greenery that's going to be used throughout the wedding day in the flat lays. So one prop that I like to have, not really a prop, but a tool that I like to have in my styling case is a pair of scissors, because when I get that vase of loose blooms and sprigs, I like to snip up the sprigs and cut the stems off the blooms so that when I style, everything looks really clean, and it just gives me a little bit more creative freedom when styling if I have a pair of scissors to snip those things and make everything look the way I would like them to look. The fourth tip when photographing flat lays is to have your aperture up a little bit higher than normal. So normally on the wedding day, probably 90% of the wedding day, I'm shooting at 2.0 aperture or lower. And you don't want to do that with flat lays, because when you're photographing things, especially with dimension, you want to make sure everything is in focus. So I like to have my aperture at 4.0 or 5.6, depending on how much dimension is on the flat lay, so that everything is in focus. And then when I go in to photograph more close-up stuff of the flat lay, I'll put my aperture back to 2.0. But initially, when you're photographing the full flat lay, you're gonna want your aperture to be a little bit higher at about 4.0. My final tip is making sure that when you're editing these images, you can see the details within the details. What I mean by this is specifically when an invitation and paper goods are on white paper. I think a lot of us who are into fine art photography or that bright and airy type of photography, we want to overexpose it, and that's going to blow out those paper goods, and you're not going to be able to see any of the writing or any of the detail that is on the paper or on the escort cards or whatever it was, whatever item it was. So make sure when you are editing that you keep a special eye out for that. Make sure that you can see all the details. When I'm even photographing the flat lays, I might underexpose these images a little just to make sure I can see all the details. And then when I'm editing, I'll use those highlight sliders to make sure that I can still see the writing on the invitations, especially if they were made on white paper. And those are my 5 tips. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope those tips will be helpful to you as you photograph flat lays at your next wedding. Make sure to grab the free download in the description below if you want to learn more from me, and I'll see you again next week with a new video.